You are here because you want to know exactly how many calories you want to eat and exactly the macros you need to consume. And Joe and I, we are here to help. Now, Joe, I want to start with a story, all right, before we get down to scientific facts.
Tell me a story.
I got a guy.
Regale us with a story, Bobby.
All right. I got a guy who I've been training for a few months. He started in the 190s. I'm going to say 195. I'd have to look it up in my charts.
Mm-hmm.
Calls me the other day. He's down to 176.
Wow.
To get there, 20 pounds in a couple of months is a great achievement, right? Couple pounds a week. But the only thing he's done is follow the advice we've given 9,452 times. Just no junk food. Just don't eat processed food. Sleep 8 hours a night. And just I want you to exercise every day. Don't even care what it is. I'm going to give you 4 workouts a week. But if you can't work out, just go for a walk and do what you can. Now, progress. It's like basically like stop, grinded to a halt. He's got that typical, I'm going to say male physique where you kind of have the upper abs, but you don't have any lower abs. And he's trying to put the finishing touches on his physique. Just estimating, I think he's probably got 4 or 5 pounds of fat to lose. And then he's going to have that Jason Statham body that he wants, if you will, right?
Right.
They say Jason Statham because that's probably realistic for a lot of guys. The Rock, probably not. John Cena,
that's a different thing.
Right, that's a whole different thing. But like someone like Henry Cavill, someone like, Jason Statham, you could probably do. But the point I want to get at is the advice we've given before, like, hey, you just got to eat right and sleep right. That's only going to take you so far. At some point, you need to weigh, you need to measure, you need to know your BMR, you need to know your macros. And without that, I feel like a lot of people at the tail end of their transformation, if you will, they're beating their head against the wall.
Yeah, and this points to something that we've said 1,000 times, which is the closer you get to your goal, the more dialed in, the more specific, the more difficult it has to be.
Yep. And there's a reason you work in the movie industry. There's a reason guys like Michael B. Jordan hired his trainer. There's a reason Henry Cavill has a trainer. There's a reason, like The Rock doesn't need a trainer, but he has a trainer, Dave Rienz, to help him with his macros, with his food, there's actually a really interesting article about how he transformed to play Mark Kerr in the Smashing Machine, like the different works he had to do. And that's coming from a guy like, to be honest with you, I think The Rock knows more about, like, has forgotten more about working out than most people know, period, right? Like, to think he needs a trainer, needs to dial it, but that's the level you're going to be at in the last little bit. So today, let's dive right in. Let's talk about calories and let's talk about macros because that's what people want to know, right?
Yeah. So I like this. Like, we'll just kind of make the assumption that, you've quit smoking, you're managing your drinking, your diet is kind of sort of clean, you're getting good sleep, you're managing stress, and you're consistent with your workouts. You will eventually plateau. Now we got to get serious.
Yep.
Here's how we do it.
Yep. I'm glad you brought that up because I want to add one more thing. Just because you're not doing those things, if you tuned in and you're an obese slob, you got chicken wing and taco grease all over your gray sweatpants, right? You haven't done anything in 10 years. You can still use this information. You can get a BMR calculator. You can get macros. There's a caveat to that. It's really hard to go from 0 to 100 in any walk of life. It's really hard to go from not training to training 4 hours a day. It's really hard to go from not weighing, not measuring, just eating McDonald's 3 times a day for your entire life, or living at the 7-Eleven off of, bean burritos and pizza, and then going to have a little food scale. Like, that's a big jump. So is it the right thing to do scientifically? Absolutely. But psychologically, like, the reason I use this guy that got from 196 to 176 is because he's spent a couple of months, like, doing some hard work. He's lost some weight. He's seen some progress. He's got some energy. He now knows the foods that are okay and the foods that are not. It's really daunting to have to go to a grocery store after 10 years of treating your body like an amusement park, and then all of a sudden trying to figure out what's good for you and what's not for you. So,
and let's not forget, if you're 40 years old, you are the way you are because of 40 years of habits that got you to that point. And even if you dial in for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, that is not going to overcome the previous 40 years of just habits and like your comfort levels. And even if you hit your goal, you're going to have a really hard time staying in that zone because it is such a drastic change.
Right? New Year's Day, everyone starts out hard and they flame out in 3 weeks. So like scientifically, again, if I was taking a person and doing this right, scientifically, the right way to do it is from day one, calories, macros, like all the things. But just psychologically, you might need to give yourself a little bit of a runway by just let's do 30 days of eating right, sleeping right. Okay. But that said, the first thing we got to figure out, because there's two categories, there's calories and there's macros.
Yep.
First thing we got to figure out is how many calories we need. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not an exact science, and it's going to take some work and it's going to take some dedication. First thing you're going to do, you're going to go to Google. We're not in the days where you had to go to the library and know trigonometry to figure out some advanced formula. There are sites that will do it for you. I actually got one pulled up right now. I went to Google, I typed BMR calculator. It's going to ask you to put in some measurements. You can go US, you can go metric, you can go other units. At any rate, put my age, Joe, I'm 47. My gender is male. My height is 6'3", and my weight is 231 pounds. So I'm going to calculate my BMR. My BMR is 2,008 calories a day. For a person my age, my height, my weight, it's 2,008 calories a day. That is just the baseline calories I need to exist. That's like a pure maintenance load, all right? There's a problem with that right off the bat. There was no place for me to input an accurate measure of my body fat. Because if I'm 6'3", 231, and 30% body fat, that is very different than being 10% body fat. So that's why I say this is going to be hard to do scientifically. If you really, truly want a number, I would go get a DEXA scan, or I would go to one of those dunk tanks where they're going to measure your body fat, and they're also going to give you some fancy 8-page printout that's going to have these numbers on there that's tailored exactly for your physique. But this at least is going to get you in the ballpark, if you will.
Yep.
Then it correlates calories with activity level. So if you're sedentary, that's little or no exercise, that's 2,400 calories. If you exercise 1 to 3 times a week, 2,762 calories. You exercise 4 times a week, 2,942 calories. Now, I'm not going to go over every single number here and bore you, but you're going to have to figure out where you are on this list, which brings up problem number 2. It says exercises 15 to 30 minutes of elevated heart rate activity. Is that cleaning the house? Is that walking on a treadmill? Is it doing a hard CrossFit circuit? Like, I'm not sure where that lies. Intense exercises has 45 to 120 minutes of elevated heart rate. But again, no definition of what an elevated heart rate is.
Per day, per week? And if you work out for 2 hours on a Saturday, does that cover you for the whole week?
I have no idea. So again, you're going to have to play a little bit. What I would recommend, and listen, if you're my guy that's 176 and you're watching this, you are serious. If you can't Google 3 or 4 sites and take the average, you're lazy. You don't want it that bad. I would literally go to 3 or 4.
I would even go it just simpler and just say, take your goal weight times 10 to 12, pick a number depending on how fast you want to go. So let's just say you want to be, you're 240 pounds, you want to be 200 pounds. So take 200 times 10, 2,000. That's your starting point. All right. That is sort of like a good average. You're close enough. And then what you're going to have to do, and this is the hardest part, is you're going to have to be patient and you're going to have to be consistent. So if I know my BMR is 2,000 and I'm tracking, I'm using an app, I'm using my Apple Watch or whatever, and I know I'm burning 800 calories a day, then my homeostasis is 2,800 calories a day. So then I can just cut 200 calories from that, say my daily limit is 2,600, but now I have to be consistent with the exercise. I have to be consistent with tracking and somewhat accurate, and I'm going to have to wait 6 weeks and then evaluate, has my body weight changed?
Okay,
if it has, carry on. If it hasn't changed, you got to turn the dial a little bit.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, there's a couple ways to do this. One, the Bobby Maximus way, you're going to go to 3 different sites. You're going to get a number from each site. You're going to guess your activity level. You're going to take an average. You're going to stick with that. Joe Cebula way is you're going to take your goal weight. That's important, not your weight right now. What weight you think you should be at. Your goal weight, you're going to times it by a multiple of 10 to 12. That's going to give you your starting point. You're going to eat that much. You're going to exercise. You're going to note what happens and make adjustments along the way.
Yes.
Okay. Either way, you're going to have to adjust up or down for 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah, at least.
Because it's not going to be exact, right? You may have a slower metabolism. You may have a faster one. You might exercise more than you think. You might exercise less than you think. Your Apple Watch, you mentioned that, it might not be tracking calories exactly accurately, and you're all messed up. So here's where people get in real trouble. They want the answer on day one. You're going to have to eat this way for a week, and you're going to have to note the trends. Okay, I'm down a pound. Is that enough? Is that not enough? Is it too much? Am I tired? Am I hungry? Do I lower my calories a little bit? Do I up my calories a little bit so that you can tune this in to your result for your desired timeline? So, for example,
that
if you
actually,
want to lose...
something you said right there deserves a moment of recognition. Am I tired? Because you're going to be in an energy deficit. And if you're trying to if you're like, you know what, screw all the recommendations, I'm going to lose 3 pounds a week. But at the end of week 1, you are down 3 pounds, but you're exhausted, you're angry, you're emotional because your energy balance is off. Do you think you're going to be able to maintain that? Or maybe you should slow down to 2 or 1 pound a week and actually be able to stay consistent for a long time.
But again, this is consistent with your timeline. Here's a good example, Joe, because you work in the movies. Let's say an actor like Kit Harington, because you worked with him, has to get screen ready in 12 weeks. And say he's let himself get 30 pounds overweight. I don't care how tired you are. You got to lose your 2.5, 3 pounds a week. And at that point, you take caffeine pills, you drink Red Bull, you live off Sudafed, you're mainlining pre-workout. I don't care what you got to do to not be tired at that point. You have to be screen ready. You have a job. Yeah. If you have a high school reunion, if you're that's different. On the other hand, if you're just a guy, a jag, great. Maybe you have 6 months and maybe that's a more sustainable way to do it. Because I will tell you, it is easier to be disciplined. It is easier to fight the tiredness when you got a paycheck coming because of it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
And accountability, a real consequence tied to your success.
Living as a professional fighter for years, you don't make weight, you don't fight, or you get fined. It is really easy to say no to a plate of nachos and cheese. On a random Wednesday night, on a random Monday night when you're watching football, man, it's really easy to make a justification. So let's just be clear on that. But your numbers are going to have to be consistent with your timeline, right? And it's probably going to take you, I said 3 weeks to a month. It might take a month and a half to figure this out because unfortunately, weight loss is not linear. You'll do the exact same things. And 1 week you lose a pound. The next week you'll gain half a pound. The next week you'll lose 2 pounds. The next week you'll be even. So you got to look at trends long term. And now we've lost people because you wanted the result in 21 days.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get your calorie number, Joe. And we're going to go for just the sake of this. My BMR here, it says 2,008 calories a day. You did 200. You said that was your goal weight. You times it by 10, 2,000 calories. Let's stick with 2,000 calories for the macro talk. Just for a hypothetical person, but you'll adjust for you. Okay. Macros are the subject of a lot of debate, and there's a lot of stuff out there, but let's try to simplify. There's 3 macros: protein, carbs, fat. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff. Protein, 4 calories a gram. Carbs, 4 calories a gram. Fat, 9 calories a gram, which automatically vilifies fat, but that's not necessarily the problem that people think it is. It's just higher calorie per gram. There are high carb, low fat diets. There are low carb, high fat diets, you can't really do both. You can't have high and high or low and low, right? I mean, theoretically, actually, I take that back. You probably could have low and low by doing like a carnivore type diet.
Yeah, depending on, like, if you're picking really lean meats, like if you ate nothing but like turkey breast, probably you could get something to that effect.
And you wouldn't die. You'd feel horrible, but you wouldn't die. But generally, you got to pick high carb or low carb.
Yeah.
So let's address that later. Let's start with the biggest and most important macronutrient, protein. Okay? Your protein macronutrients. There's the scientific recommendation, and then there's real world. The scientific recommendation is 1.3 to 1.7 grams per kilo of body weight a day. So we take this 200-pound person. How much is that in kilos? You divide it by 2.2. They're 91 kilos. 1.3 means their minimum is 118 grams of protein a day. Their maximum times 1.7 is 154 a day. If you're between 118 and 154, that's probably sufficient.
Yep.
There's a problem with that. When you're trying to keep your calories low, you're going to be hungry. Protein helps keep you satiated. It's why we recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight a day, because it's actually hard to eat. It will keep you full. It will keep you satisfied. And generally, if people are going to overeat, like they don't weigh, they don't measure, they're eating at restaurants, it's far better to overeat on protein than overeat on carbs and fat.
It also, it does make the math a little easier. You know, if I'm going for 2,000 calories a day and, you know, again, I'm trying to hit that goal weight at 200 pounds, then I should be shooting for 200 grams of protein per day. It's like, again, just that easy number. If I'm at 1,800 calories a day, I need 180 grams of protein. Like, it kind of just fits and gives you a number to start. And again, you can dial it up or down as you go, but I think in general, maximize the protein as much as you can.
Couple of things with that too. Having too much protein will never hurt you. Apart from some rare medical condition. I got to add that.
Having not physicians, just having medical advice.
Too low of protein, that's going to be problematic.
Yeah.
For your muscular growth, your muscular maintenance. And ideally, you want to maintain as much muscle while you're losing fat as possible. First of all, it's going to be impossible to just lose only fat and not muscle. You're going to lose a little bit of muscle, but you want to minimize that as much as possible, especially in your later years. You want to hang on to all the muscle mass you can. So I'd rather have more protein to prevent against muscle metabolism. So we're going to go with 200 grams, Joe. 200 grams times 4 is 800 calories. So you have 1,200 calories left to eat. So my question to you is, high carb, low fat, or high fat, low carb?
I think it kind of depends. And this is where I think as an athlete, as someone who's trying to cut weight, like, you have the opportunity to play a little bit. If you're doing something that's very like high energy, like you're doing sort of a CrossFit protocol, going low carb can really tank your workouts because you will just be heavy and lethargic. So you might want to go low fat, high carb. If you're mostly sedentary or just doing like LISS, like the long, slow kind of stuff, then maybe you want to go the other way and crank back the carbs and try to backfill with all that fat. And I also think it's interesting because these macros sort of tend to go together, where like protein and fat, if you're eating like red meat, you can get a lot of fat in a ribeye. So they do kind of go together that way, which is why I think things like, people see success with things like a carnivore diet or even like a paleo style diet. But I think if you look at carbs as like gas in the engine, how much do you really need? Because you can easily overeat on carbs. You can't really undereat on them. You don't need them to stay alive. But if you're trying to be a performer, and again, if you're doing lots of workouts trying to maintain muscle, you may need to feed that muscle a little bit so that you can keep the workouts up.
Okay. What about, does what you like to eat factor into this for you? So
Yes
for example,
and no.
I really like potatoes and rice and bread, right? So it's easier for me to eat that way and I can stick to that diet better. I just have to have low fat. Or on the other hand, I love my ribeye steaks, but I hate filet. So I want the higher fat. Like, is there any part of this you get some leeway with that?
I say yes, but, and what the but is if eating the way that you wanted to eat was going to work, then we wouldn't be in this situation to begin with, right?
Fair. Okay.
But
let me word
also, how close are you to your actual goal, and how much work have you done to dial it in? Because if you're Henry Cavill getting ready for a movie and you've got just a matter of weeks, I don't give a shit what you like. You'll eat the way I tell you to eat because we need to get you down in weight, right?
Okay. So let me ask that a different way. Two people, right? Genetically identical twins, whatever. They both eat 2,000 calories. Protein's the same, 200 grams. One has high fat, low carb. One has high carb, low fat. At the end of 12 weeks, are they relatively the same? I'm going to say yes, because the calories are dialed. So what I'm saying is there is some, I don't know if one works better than the other, apart from like you find this more tolerable. And again, with the energy requirements you were talking about, where if you're doing endurance training, you're doing CrossFit training, you probably want to be higher carb, lower fat. You're going to have more energy unless you're capable of just sucking up being tired. Because
some people can do that.
Like that.
Yeah, some people can do that. I've done very well on like almost no carb diets.
Okay.
Like I can function that way.
Like, here's my thing with both. Could you go low carb for 3 days, then when you're feeling low, just have a big baked potato for lunch and adjust your macros and do like the carb cycling thing? Like, I'm going to push this as long as I can, and then I'll have some carbs that day as long as your calories are respected.
Yeah. So, because I like that as far as guidelines, that you have a protein minimum and a calorie maximum, and then you can kind of play with the rest.
Yep. I also want to say that when it comes to weight loss, calories are fuel. You can technically zone out. If you remember the zone diet, you could technically zone out at McDonald's. It's just really, really hard because you don't get a lot of food for your calories.
Yeah. You end up not eating very much, right? That's like one of the arguments for like getting tons of vegetables is like, I mean, how many calories are in a pound of broccoli? Like nothing. But you've got a pound of stuff in your stomach. You're going to feel a lot more full than if you try to eat, a very, very like calorie dense thing like bacon or something like that, where 2 slices of bacon is going to do you in for the day.
So Joe, I go through this every lunch. So lunch is when I consume most of my carbohydrates. One vehicle for me is white rice. Another vehicle for me is air fryer potatoes with a little oil and salt. 400 calories of those air fryer potatoes, I can barely finish them and I'm stuffed. 400 calories of rice, I'm still starving. Potatoes is always a better choice to keep me satiated, right? Kind of like what you said with vegetables, like a big salad makes me feel full. A small slice of pizza from Little Caesars, man, I am so hungry, it's not even funny, right? Or like a sugary drink. Some of the worst things you could do are like Jamba Juice shakes, not to rip on Jamba Juice, but 1,200 calories of like, what do I do the rest of the day? You know what I mean? Whereas 1,000 calorie ribeye, you split that in 3 equal portions, you're probably good for the day, and that's low calorie. So you're going to have to adjust. That's where the food purity comes into play, right? The final thing I kind of want to talk about with this, though, is you can't trust yourself. You made a really interesting statement that you're in this position because you are in this position doing what you do. You can't guess calories. You need to track. You need to have a tracking app because a lot of times, and I call it the eating off your kid's plate syndrome, you eat stuff off your kid's plate, you add an extra 300 or 400 calories a day, you don't even recognize that's what it is. You don't know how to guess calories right. So you're like, I think I had 700 for lunch yesterday. Do you? Did you look up what 3 ounces of this is? Did you look? So you're going to need a calorie tracking app. The one we use, we actually, for our workout app on Team Maximus on the Ladder app, we have a nutrition tracker on there.
Yeah.
AI.
It's a new feature, and it's awesome. Honestly,
it's awesome.
Not just high on our own supply, but it is fantastic.
You can take pictures of stuff, and AI will tell you what you're eating. You can dictate. You can type. You can change the macros if you need to. If it pulls something up errantly, like you are set. But you are going to need some way to track this because you're incapable of knowing this on a day-to-day basis. And you're certainly incapable if after a week you haven't lost any weight, then sitting down and trying to recount every single thing you put in your mouth for a week.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just going to be like a day-by-day thing. You're not going to lose a pound a day. At the end of a week, you're going to have to sit down. Did I lose weight? No. What did I do wrong? You need a record of that you're going to have to track. And I'm going to take it one step further to close the show, Joe. You're also going to need a food scale.
Yep.
And I know you hate weighing and measuring, but do you actually know what 4 ounces of chicken looks like?
And you think you do.
You think you do. And also, when you're hungry, your mind starts playing tricks on you. You put 6 ounces down on that plate, and you're like, oh, that's about 3 ounces. And then you wonder why you're not losing weight. People do that all the time, Joe. They minimize what they're eating. Here, I've seen people go the other way. Like people who have eating disorders, they'll put 3 ounces of chicken on their plate. They're like, oh, I had 6 or 7.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you did not. You went the other way. You need to weigh and measure, and you will quickly find out that your food portions are not what you thought they were. So your life now is you got a scale, and you got the phone, and you are constantly, and it takes a lot of work. And this is why people don't do it. This is why people are like, I'm just not meant to have apps. This is too hard.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it takes a lot of effort. Like
well,
you're gonna
like meal prep, right? Like just swallow the frog, do it all at once on a Sunday, and then every time you're hungry, you've got a little Tupperware container that's already been weighed and measured, and you're just like adding the same meal into the app every time because it's easier to log it. Like there's a lot of different ways that people have figured out how to build that consistency, and it isn't always pleasant, which is why it's hard to stick to.
Use meal prep services. You pay like $6 or $7 a meal. It comes in the mail. You get your little sweet potato and roast beef hash or like whatever it is, and the exact calories and macros. Like if that's what you got to do, you're eating out of 3 Tupperware containers a day for the rest of the. But like again, how bad do you want it? Michael B. Jordan wanted it for Creed.
Yep.
Jason Statham wants it for his movies. Henry Cavill wanted it for Superman. Do you want it for like what you're trying to want it for? And then that's the real question, because you got to weigh and you got to measure and you got to pay attention. And you're not doing this for a week. You're probably doing this for 4 to 6 weeks, to be honest with you.
I would even just say, just get it in your mind. You're doing this from now on. This is who you are. This is how you live. Mm-hmm.
It's also an argument for eating out of packages. I know we say don't eat out of packages, but like one of the things I do with my rice, Joe, is I have these individual Korean rice bowls from Costco that you put in the microwave. It's the green and white package, Bibico, I think it's called, but you put it in the microwave and you pull it out because it's my exact macros. I'm not measuring, is this dry rice? Is it cooked rice? What weight is this? I know exactly what's in it. You also, and I know I keep saying one more thing, but this is also important. There's so many things. We could probably do a part 2 and a part 3. You really got to be careful at restaurants.
Yes.
And I'm going to use one example of that. Eggs, probably the worst thing you can order in a restaurant when you're on a diet, because what was it cooked in?
Yeah.
Great, you got egg whites. Great. How much bacon grease was in there? How much oil was in there? How much butter was in there? Do you even know? Because I'll tell you, just egg whites by themselves, they're rather unappetizing.
Mm-hmm.
That oil sure makes it taste good. You know what I mean? And do you know, was the chef careful enough to wipe that griddle off and get all the oil away, or use a separate pan? Or was he just like, here we go?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. So you almost can't even, if you're going to really do this for real, Joe, it is really hard to eat out. It's one of the reasons my primary place to eat out is Chipotle, because they've got all the macros calculated. But the same token, and there's all kinds of jokes about this on the internet, what the portion size people give you.
Yep.
Like you go at the end of the night where they're about to shut down, you get a burrito bowl. It's like 9 pounds. You go during the lunch hour rush, that same burrito bowl is a quarter of the size.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just pulling that up on your macros. So that's a really hard thing to do. Because last time I was at Chipotle, they don't have a 1 cup scoop for rice. They don't have a 1 cup. Like So then you go in your
they're not taking it out, like leveling it off, putting it on the scale and making sure they're just flopping it in there.
I had a dude the other day. It was the greatest compliment I've gotten in weeks. He said, man, you're a big guy. You look like you need some extra protein at the house. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, all right.
I go to put it in my app, and it's not the same as the bowl I had a week before either. So there you have it. There's your cheat sheet for calories and macros. It's going to be frustrating. I was going to say you got this, but you don't got it. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of work. I'll tell you, it's going to be worth it. But you got to dial in, and you really, really got to pay attention. You got to get yourself a good scale. You got to weigh yourself in the same condition, maybe every day, maybe every week. It's going to take some effort. And that's it. You got anything to add over there, big man?
I think we laid that out about as simply as we can really lay it out. And you can tell, like, there's a lot of rabbit holes to go down. So you just got to stay focused. And that's why I like have your calorie maximum, your protein minimum, track, weigh, and measure, and just accept that that is what needs to happen. And don't waver. Just stay in the fight.
You got to be on it. So there we go. Another episode of the Maximus Podcast. Subscribe, smash that like button. There's all kinds of stuff on the site. We've got talks about foods that you should eat, nutrient density, because that's all layered in here. But have a great, I say the site on the YouTube channel, on the podcast. The podcast, so we at like 290?
Maybe 270, 280.
Yeah.
We're pretty close.
I guaranteed if you got a question like, this is all well and great, but what food should I eat? We got a couple of podcasts on that. So go back in the library, have a look, and then we'll see you in the next episode.